This should be good for a laugh. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, we've been working through a renovation on a 1956 Calcraft. We spent last week finishing up the passenger side wall and getting the curve that makes up the outside circumference finished.
I'm back.
And with that done, we are going to need to make sure that both walls are an exact match for one another. So I'm going to take some of this bracing material off of there. I'm going to get my other wall, I'm going to lay it down, secure them together so they can't move. Then we're going to either add more layers or we're going to use our belt sander and sand down some layers if it's easier to make them match that way. And we're going to make sure that they are a good solid match for one another, because that's really important when it comes time to put that sealing material on that makes the curve all the way around it. Those really have to match. Once that sealing material is on, there will be additional layers wrapped over that to meet up to the roof line. But if it's already the same at that point, then those layers are just a simple matter of adding them, and they should match just fine. So anyway, I'm going to take this bracing off, and then I'm going to grab my other wall out of the garage and lay it down. Okay, so I've got another little tip for you. If you do this sort of thing laying on a surface, you might want to put down some wax paper or something on the underside of the part that you're gluing, because it's going to glue itself to the surface that you're working on. So now, before I'm able to lift this up, I'm going to take my little paint scraper, I'm going to take my little hammer, and I'm going to go all the way around it. And I'm going to hammer that loose. So, whoops.
It's so weird, I'll get old. Gotta look for another one. Gotta look for another one. It's so weird, I'll let go.
Okay, so it's a bit later and a little less direct sun on the old driveway over here. So I'm gonna take some screws and screw these two sides of the camper together, and then I can really start matching up the contour there. Yeah. So you can see right here there's a difference of about 3 layers. So there was a little discrepancy on the back, obviously, when I was making this curve, which is okay, because, you know, adding 3 layers there is not too big a deal. You know, you kind of think like, oh, well, they're going to be kind of stair-stepped. Well, that's when I come back with my belt sander and just smooth those off. So, you know, it just takes a little bit of time to do it, but then when you're done, you know, you've got these walls that absolutely match and are going to work correctly. And the reason you get these discrepancies between the walls is because these wall studs are in different spots on each wall. So if you had the studs in the same spot on both walls, then, you know, you likely wouldn't have to worry about those discrepancies. But okay, this should be good for a laugh. Okay, this is heavier than I thought it would be. Stand here. Okay, this might require some camera magic. Yeah, piece of cake. Okay, so I want to point out these areas right here. You can see right here, this part goes in further than this part. So I'll add some more of these strips right there. one or two to build that up to there. Now these parts down here and up here, I could sand those all the way down, but that's making this unfortunately a lot thinner on that side, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to want to do there is you know, actually, now that I'm thinking of it, I actually prefer the profile on this top layer. So I might actually add to the back here so that I'm still the same thickness, and then sand this sticky outy part back down. I think down here I'll just add to this top one because I like how that kind of comes out there. So it sort of depends on which profile you like better. I like this one better up here because it's going to be a you know, a big front window here, and it's a little flatter. So I'd rather have that profile than the bottom profile. You get the idea. Add some, take some away. A belt sander with a pretty aggressive grit will get through these staples and make it pretty short work, I think. Okay, so it's the next day, obviously. So let's take these off and see how it turned out. Yeah, it looks pretty good. So the trick will be to sand this spot down and sand all these smooth using our belt sander, which is right here.
So you thought you got it made for easy living, slipping out the back door. But it's not what you're made for, and there's nothing that is too late for. Out of the cold into my warm hand in the sun. It's already begun. You are my one with a simple mind.
Okay, so it's had time to dry enough that I can take these off and move down the line and do the next section.
Everybody couldn't make a wrong turn. You waver and slip and you get burned. But I'm here, so don't you worry, 'cause you know I'll be there in a hurry. Out of the cold into my warm hands in the sun.
All right, well, I think that's my last little bit that I need to add. I'm going to leave this clamped for a little bit to make sure that glue's had time to hold. And then, unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to pick this up and shuffle it over into the garage because I think it's supposed to rain tonight. I would go ahead and work on sanding those down, but I'm a little afraid that the sander's so aggressive that without having 24 hours for that glue to really take hold, that it might just zip those little pieces that I added right off. So anyway, we're gonna get it put away in the garage in case it rains tonight, and we'll get back at it as soon as we can.
This is one for you. And
Okay, so it rained today like they thought it was going to, so I won't be really doing any work on camper since I've still got the actual trailer part of the camper sitting under the canopy here. But what I can do is something that I've been needing to do for a while, which is test out a couple of finishes on what's going to be the walls and the ceiling. One of them that I'm going to try is what was traditionally used on these vintage campers, which is amber shellac. You see a lot of them have that kind of really warm, kind of orangey wood. Well, that's amber shellac. And the more coats of this you put on, the darker the amber gets on them. The other one I've been wanting to try is polyacrylic, which is, of course, a water-based polyurethane substitute, in a way. And I've never used this before because I generally like the harder coating oil-based finishes better. But the thing with actual polyurethane is that it does yellow with time. So it will get, you know, more of that warm glow. And part of me wanted to kind of stay away from that and just go with something that would be the exact color of the wood, more or less. And they say polyacrylic doesn't have that yellow tint to it, so I'm going to try that and just see what I think. So I'm going to cut just a couple little scraps of wood, and we're going to try these out. Okay, so I wanted to say how I initially feel about these. You know, this might be the more traditional sort of finish for these things, and I think it would. I think as I put more layers on, it will look more traditional, but initially, I'm not a fan. I really like just the color of the wood with the polyacrylic. So the question there is, will the finish look nice enough that I'm okay using polyacrylic and not, say, polyurethane? Oh, and one quick thing. Why did I do both sides of the really thin stuff? Well, because the surface, this darker surface, actually is a little bit nicer and cleaner looking than the other surface. So if I go with the other surface, I have some decisions to make there regarding some knot holes and stuff like that. Which I think it's going to have to be that surface because I really think this is way too dark, way too far off of a match from that. I think the other would be close enough that we wouldn't really worry about it. So, but yeah, initially, not a fan. I do kind of like that. So we're going to let these dry, and then I'm going to do a little light sanding on them and put another coat on them. Ideally, we'd do 3 coats on each to really see what the finish is going to be like, and on this to see what the color is going to be like. So we'll see if we can do that. It's just a waiting game. Okay, well, these have dried overnight, so I'm going to sand them just a bit and do another coat on them and take a look at them again. Let's get these sawhorses back out. Okay, so it's time to finish up the sanding, but one other thing I decided that I would do is I'd take my little square and I'd make a few vertical lines across the bottom, just so that I have matching lines on each one of these that I know if I set them at the same distance when I go to put the walls up, they'll be even with one another. So just a little trick to hopefully keep things a little more square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my belt sander now and I'm going to go all the way around this and sand it until the two sides are a good match for one another. You know, we added wood the other day so that we could take wood away right now. Well, I think that's where we're going to end it this week, folks. You know, it's kind of baby steps, but progress doesn't always happen in leaps and bounds. Sometimes it's tiny little steps, and sometimes it's crawling. So we're getting it done, moving along. Remember, new videos come out every Sunday, so make sure and like and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. I'm going to get something to drink. Oh man, I'm sweating. I'm sweating like crazy.